You want to talk about a mess on the horizon for Kansas City. It may very well be this World Cup that is, give or take, a year and a half away, and it will be here before we know it. And a lot of the legwork is being done right now. But there is a lot of drama that is bubbling up behind the scenes. And you're going to hear this first and maybe only on KCMO Talk Radio. But with the World Cup coming up next year, I was talking to a bunch of people yesterday about, this lawsuit that is going to be filed in Jackson County against Frank White by multiple members of the county legislature. And that's going to be filed because, they can't figure out a budget for 2025, despite the fact that we are 2 months in to 2025. And then I stumbled upon this yesterday, and it was around Arrowhead Stadium. So you guys know they're going to be removing all these seats from Arrowhead Stadium, right? Because they got to make the field a little bit bigger for soccer.
Yep, right.
I was trying to explain this to Claire last night because I'm on those phone calls after dinner getting all this information. And she's kind of hearing about soccer and football, and she was all confused. So trying to explain this to a 6-year-old, actually, it's kind of preparation for the show. Not that the listener is that way, but I'm just saying I try to break it down as simplistically as possible. So it helps. I'm prepping for the show by talking to my 6-year-old last night. It works out.
Like baseball, some of the pitches in England are a little bit different size, but they're within certain parameters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Chiefs are going to be removing seats so these games can be played for the World Cup. And the seats were going to be removed before this upcoming 2025 season.
Yeah, they need a little wider for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're adding length or not. They probably could use a little bit. So all the way around, perhaps. There.
So they've got to remove these seats, and they were supposed to start it right after the AFC Championship game. And they haven't done a thing yet. Now, what I've heard, and what I know to be the case on very good authority, is that the Chiefs went to this KC 2026 organization, and I'll ask the mayor about this in 20 minutes. And they basically said, hey, we need $14 million to do this. Now, there are a lot of very wealthy people in this town who have given money to KC 2026 to help this World Cup get off the ground. You got Cliff Illig, the Sporting KC principal owner. You got John Sherman, majority owner for the Royals. You got a lot of very wealthy and powerful people in Kansas City who have spent a lot of time and a lot of money to help bring the World Cup here next year. And for some reason, the Chiefs decided they were going to play some hardball and say, oh, yeah, by the way, with these seats coming out, it's going to cost us money, and we're going to lose some money next year on this. So, yeah, we're going to need $14 million. And KC 2026 said, nah, sorry, the money's not there. We're not doing it. So nothing has happened at Arrowhead the last basically month, despite the fact that they were supposed to start this process of getting these seats out of Arrowhead Stadium the week after the AFC Championship game ended, and nothing's been done. So it's kind of like this stalemate going on right now. And, for most of us, it's like, okay, these are all the pretty people, all the rich people basically fighting with each other. That's fine, but it's still notable because Kansas City does not want to be embarrassed for this World Cup in a year and a half. These people have to figure out how to play nice to put on a good show. But let's be very clear. They're the ones who wanted this. Right? This was not driven by some grassroots effort to make sure we get World Cup games in Kansas City. This has been largely political posturing. I know that, God bless Cliff Illig. He's a big soccer guy. He's been an advocate for the sport in this town for a very long time. He was a big mover and shaker to make this happen. Same thing with Clark Hunt, and same thing with a lot of the other people involved. Kathy Nelson, who is the Kansas City Sports Commissioner. Joe Reardon, who is the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce president and CEO. You got the current folks as well who are involved in this whole deal. And that's great. I mean, it will be good. It can be good for Kansas City. But the infighting right now is real. And from what I've gathered, there's a lot of people who are like, hey, if Mayor Lucas is the guy who wants to be the face of this whole thing, he's got to help figure this thing out. If he wants to be the one waving the flag, Well, guess what? He's going to have to come to the table and help negotiate on the backside of how this is going to all be paid for. Because the city's going to be on the hook for a tremendous amount of money if they can't raise through donations what they need to put on a show like they're expected to with the World Cup coming next year. And you know and I know, at a time when the city is all of a sudden crying poor because, well, Doge is coming, this may not be the time for Kansas City to be on the hook for millions of dollars of potential future costs because we want to host a couple of soccer games. And yes, it has great potential. Will it bring in the revenues, the tax revenues that it costs the city? That stuff usually doesn't work out the way people think it's going to work out or the way governments promise you it's going to work out. Usually it ends up being a cost to the taxpayer, not a net benefit to the taxpayer. But I'd love to be wrong about that. But there is a lot of drama that is happening behind the scenes. Now, last night, I saw some photos on social media. Got to give credit. Did you guys see the crowd out there at Sporting? It looked like they had a pretty good crowd for a 0-degree soccer game.
Yeah, it looked like it was pretty decent.
I was impressed. Now, I know it's Messi playing in Kansas City. That is a very big deal. If you're a diehard soccer fan, you're probably going to go out there and you're going to just suck it up. But still, I did not expect to see the crowd size that we saw yesterday at that game. I was like, okay, these are diehard. I can respect that as someone who was at the Dolphins-Chiefs game 2 years ago.
Well, there's that. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
Messi playing the full 90 minutes, too, is a pretty impressive.
That's unique. Yeah, especially in the weather. But also, too, the tickets were like friend of a friend of a friend, too. It wasn't like these people all bought right off. And, I'm sure everybody's got some tickets. A lot of people got in free to go with someone, too. So
that's true. I mean,
that.
You know what?
You still got to show up, right?
You still got to show up. You could have gotten to that Chiefs-Dolphins game for $30, but you got to go.
Now, typically, they have the Miami games at Arrowhead. They had such a demand last time on this first time around, so I don't know if that says anything, but that's they did a great job. People showed up.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive to see last night. I didn't think they should have played the game, but they did. Messi played the whole game. He scored a goal. Best case scenario for everybody. So good on them. It was good to see, and I was wrong about that. I was like, why are they playing this game? Messi's going to bail. But to the guy's credit, he was out there, and he scored a goal, and Mark won his parlay. So life is good.